Hello, welcome to this part 2 of a 4-part series on comparing a definitive map with various other maps. In part 1, we compare the definitive map with an aerial view, a satellite view, taken from Google. Could have been from another source. In this one, we're going to compare the definitive map with an old map taken from the National Library of Scotland. So here we are. I've got the definitive map loaded up into GIMP, and I've also got 3 traces in here for the 3 paths which are in our area of interest. I've preloaded these up. So the next thing to do is to load the old map from National Library of Scotland. So I've done that now and zoomed in a bit, and as you can see, this is quite a different scale. So we need to scale this old map, and we'll do that the same way as shown in part 1, which is to measure the distance between 2 landmarks and work out using the ratio of those 2 distances on the old map and on the definitive map, and use that to work out by how much we should scale the old map. So I've done that now, and so now the next job is to move this around until we can get a good match between the 2 maps. Now there's an advantage with using maps and comparing maps to maps, and that is that we've got lines which are easier to compare. But very quickly we get into a little bit of trouble here, because although we've got good matches here, here and here on this side of the map, we go and have a look at the other side, we've got poor matches here, here and here. And the reason is because, quite surprisingly, this map from the National Library of Scotland is slightly rotated. It's slightly rotated clockwise, so we need to slightly rotate it anti-clockwise. Now the way to do that is to pick up this rotate tool up here, and then you can rotate this to your heart's content. Now the difficulty here is we only want to rotate this by quite a small amount. You can see how much we have it rotated by up here, and you can use that as a measure. So I think the thing to do is to rotate this just a little bit so that the error there has an equal and opposite error down here. Do expect to have to swap here between rotating and moving between these 2 tools here until eventually you get it absolutely spot on. So this is quite a fiddly operation, and I would expect you to take quite a bit of time in doing this. So I'll stop the video now, and while I get this straightened out. Well, there we go. I've got a decent match there, and you can see we've got a match here, match there, here, 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 just about here, a little bit of difference there, a little bit of difference there, and there. So all the way around here, the matches are looking pretty good. Now you might find that as well as having to change the scaling, you might find that your scaling is a little bit out, so you might have to throw this layer away, containing this old map away, and reload it and try a different scaling. Or you might have to, in order to help you to do different rotations, what you might also find is that the aspect ratio of the map you pull in isn't quite right. So you might have to scale it a bit differently in one direction than to another. Now that we've pulled this in, you can see some points of interest or anomalies. Here's one. You can see here that the track on which presumably the right-of-way was based used to be the other side of this field boundary here. This field boundary doesn't exist. It doesn't exist on the definitive map, so it may well be that the line of the path has drifted a little bit here. If we look across here, we can see there is a track directly under that path there. So if I flick this on and off, you can see that there is one directly under here. Here you can see it drifts away from the track, and there's a point of warning that just because you see a track on an old map, that doesn't mean that that's exactly where the right-of-way is today. The definitive map is gospel. That is the conclusive evidence as to where it goes. You'll also see here that this appears to cross a little bit of the pond here. But in fact, if we drop out the old map, we can see that the pond's actually got smaller. And today, that pond doesn't exist. So that's another area where you can be quite easily misled if you're not careful. A final area where errors can occur is that different map makers, different cartographers might actually draw these maps, the lines of these maps, in slightly different places. So it might very well be that this amount of error is just a drawing error, as is this. It's hard to tell. So we don't want to have an unreasonable expectation that every cartographer will have got this absolutely right. So maps from the National Library of Scotland are available free of charge, providing that you include this copyright message, which I will do now. Just to keep things straight, you should respect other people's rights, including copyright. So that concludes this second video, in which I've shown how to map, an old map from the National Library of Scotland, with a definitive map. And I've also tried to explain some of the ways in which things can go wrong.